We know that revenue is increasingly a challenge as the broadcast landscape shifts. We no longer watch linear television like we did 20 years ago or 30 years ago. And without that many eyeballs on linear television, where are the advertisers? And for new broadcasters, if you will, people who are streaming, people who are taking that audience, how are they going to monetize?
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Carol Bettencourt, Vice President of Marketing at Chyron. Carol, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's so nice to see you, Andrew. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Nice to see you again as well. Thank you for spending some time with us on Business Ninjas today. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and about Chyron.
I am currently serving as the Vice President of Marketing for Chyron. Chyron is a legendary provider of broadcast technology for live-to-air programming. If you watch live television, which typically is going to be news or sports, you'll see what the camera shows you, the game, the anchors sitting at their desks, whatever. But you see many other things on your screen when you think about it. You will see someone's name, their location, the score of the game, the station logo, a sponsor logo, somebody's headshot, and probably a million other things if you watch certain channels for any length of time. And we make the technology that allows people to design that, integrate it with various kinds of data, automate the display of the data, or pull it up manually and play it live to air or stream it online. So it's an industry that's always changing. We serve some of the largest broadcasters on the globe, so that's very exciting. It's kind of a kick to be able to walk into a sports bar and everybody's looking at something and say, yeah, that's our stuff up there. So it's kind of cool. I have worked in the industry for the past 25 years, kind of snuck in through the back door as a documentation specialist, learned how everything works, eventually became a trainer and systems integrator, and got to travel to all kinds of customers in all kinds of places. I worked for several different vendors in the industry. Chyron hired me originally to do marketing research, and I got promoted rather rapidly. So it's a good thing I'm a lifelong learner, because there's a lot of learning here.
Well, I'm sure as a marketer, it is nice to be handed the keys to a legendary kingdom, right?
It's a double-edged sword. It is such a legendary kingdom that for those of you who don't know marketing technology, you might not know this, but I think we all can relate to pulling a tissue out of the box and handing someone a quote unquote Kleenex. It might be Puffs or some other brand, but we still call it a Kleenex. In that same manner, if you're watching television, a lot of people in the industry will refer to that text that's down here as the Chyron. Even if it's created by one of our competitors' technology, they'll still call it a Chyron. So that's kind of cool. But because we're so known for that, I really have to push that we're always innovating. We're working on cloud technologies. We're working closely with AWS right now. We do virtual sets. We do sports analysis, and I could name you a long list that we probably don't have time for now.
Excellent. What is the origin story of Chyron? When did they come to be?
It's kind of your typical tech story. Two guys in a garage thought that this would be a cool and needful thing. This happened in 1966.
Wow.
And in fact, our little tutorials that we post a lot on social media, we refer to them now as a Chyron 66, alluding to just a little over a minute and that 1966 heritage. Prior to their invention, what would have to happen in order to just show even one person's name as their video was being shown on air, someone would have to trace on white cardboard or paper, cut those letters out, put them on a black background, film them, and then somehow superimpose that over the stream that was coming from the camera. So these guys saw a need, They invented the company. The original name was spelled a little bit differently, more like the actual Greek god whose name is Chyron. Somebody else was using that name, so we changed the I to a Y, and here we are, almost 60 years later.
Incredible. I mean, you gain unbelievable respect for what people were able to do in the land of live TV in the 60s when you see how easy it is today to do it. It's hard to imagine that that's what was involved in seeing anything other than a face on a screen at a given time.
Yeah.
What verticals are you servicing with this technology other than, simply all of the networks and sports outlets?
We look at news as one vertical, and we look at broadcast sports as a slightly different vertical, although they are related and very often owned by the same company. A third vertical that's closely related is what we call outdoor broadcast, or OB trucks, OB vans. Those vans, or sometimes it's even a semi, that will go on site to a major event all over the Olympics, all over the Super Bowl, so that every broadcaster has, in effect, a control room on wheels. That involves a little bit of a different workflow than the fixed locations. Our other verticals include education, and that has two segments as well. The schools that are teaching journalism will typically want to replicate a professional broadcast workflow, and the schools that have, like almost every college in the United States, there's some kind of athletic program and they want to broadcast that or stream that just like any other sports broadcast. On top of that, we look at house of worship as a key vertical. There are the large mega churches that stream their services, live stream them, or broadcast them live on air. But even more traditional churches, for example, Trinity Wall Street in New York City, probably the oldest Episcopal church in New York City, is one of our customers. I think a lot of that increased during COVID when people couldn't go in person. And now houses of worship realize that there's still a lot of value in reaching more people. Corporations are key vertical, not on behalf of Chyron, but others in the industry. I've done work, for example, with Walmart, with Wachovia Bank, any large company that wants to have the ability to control their own messaging, be it internally or externally, to in-store displays, however they want to do it. Esports is a rapidly growing vertical that presents some of its own challenges, and sports venues are their own vertical separate from sports broadcast. Sports broadcast is going to go live on air or live stream online. The venues, the same technology that we use to create what you might see on your screen, can also populate any size, any dimension, any pixel count. The ribbon boards, the center hungs, the things on the end of the field, which I'm not supposed to say Jumbotron because that's just one brand, but those things, scoreboards, concourse video displays, we make technology that can drive all of that as well.
Well, it certainly sounds like that legendary brand has not been sitting still in the 21st century.
No.
You broached the subject of COVID. Tell me about how you guys were able to grow the business through COVID. I'm sure there, as live events, abated for quite some time there were challenges to move to other remote venues and productions. I
think COVID caught the whole world off guard. And I think a lot of people suffered during COVID. I think our company, and this is something I'm particularly proud of, we were very mindful in how we handled it. We didn't panic. We didn't try to force something that wasn't meant to be. We did have a lot of customers who had to put a hold on projects that we were looking at completing, that we were looking at getting the revenue for. So our first impulse was to take care of our people internally. And fortunately, we already had a largely remote workforce, and we certainly continued that. With key customers, large and small, we just accepted whatever they told us. There's no sense in trying to force a venue to carry out a project to install your things when all live events have been canceled. We did work with them on continuing their relationship with us. If it meant not paying for 6 months or 12 months or even 2 years. We still worked with them. We still supported them. We even guided some of them, some of our venues customers, for example, that carried on having games, but there were no fans in the stands. So we worked with them using that same technology that, this is another one of our technologies, virtual placement, which lets you put the down and distance lines for American football or offsides lines. So it looks like somebody ran out on the field and spray painted them really quickly and then moved them somehow magically, or sponsor logos that look like they're carpeted onto the field. Our technology does that. So we use that same, and we also use it for a lot of European soccer games where vendors like, or broadcasters like to sell the space around the pitch. The venue itself sells it to advertisers, but then broadcasters might regionalize what ads go in those spaces. So for COVID, we extended that technology to the stands themselves. You can get advertisers to use that empty space that's part of what you're capturing on camera. So that was key. And a technology initiative that we already had underway was transitioning traditional workflows to the cloud. So we accelerated, since we weren't paying as many people to work out in the field with our customers, we accelerated our R&D to cloud technology. That might not sound that forward thinking because in other industries, cloud is not new. If you're looking at fintech or sales management, real estate management, construction, all kinds of things are available in the cloud day to day. I mean, even you or I might remember when we had to go to a store and buy a disc that had Adobe Creative Suite on it, and then we could download it. And now today it's all in the cloud. For the broadcaster, they're not quite there yet. There are issues of latencies, cameras getting signals up at different times. There are issues of securities and meeting the FCC guidelines that say, if you have a physical facility, it has to be so secure that no one can break in or bust in during a broadcast and put out some terrifying message. So how do you do that in the cloud? But we've worked closely with AWS. They are our cloud environment provider, and we accelerated that work during the pandemic, and we got several different key broadcasters working on proof of concepts during that time, when it actually behooved them to be able to tell their broadcast staff, you don't have to be in the control room today. You can log in from home from your HTML browser to this cloud instance, working solo or collaboratively. And so it was a good time for us to accelerate technology that has been on the way anyway, and COVID just made that go faster.
Hey, I applaud the foresight. You know, business relationships are not a sprint; they are a marathon. And for you to respect your clients and their not downfall, but their their losses,
Yeah.
I can respect that sort of approach. Tell me about, what are the most common problems you are solving for your clients?
Cloud is still an issue. We still have people wanting to try it that aren't quite sure what to do with it or how to make it work. We know that revenue is increasingly a challenge as the broadcast landscape shifts. We no longer watch linear television like we did 20 years ago or 30 years ago. And without that many eyeballs on linear television, where are the advertisers? And for new broadcasters, if you will, people who are streaming, people who are taking that audience, how are they going to monetize? So we try to make it very easy to include any kind of graphics, any kind of data, including data that could be monetized to viewers. We're working on a technology that is viewer interactive, so the viewer themselves can choose what they want to see instead of jumping to, as we all tend to do, surfing the web or jumping to some other content. The broadcaster can try to hold your eyes by giving you a chance to jump right there with that edge technology. We have technology to include QR codes in a broadcast. That's not particularly earth-shaking, but every little thing helps. So we're helping broadcasters find better ways to monetize their content. And we're also helping those who aren't the big boys, we're helping, I like to use the word democratize broadcast. You no longer have to have a multi-million-dollar investment to start a television station. You or I could start one online, and with cloud-based tools, we wouldn't have to buy all the hardware. You or I could start doing things that look at the same level as professional broadcasters. So there's a lot going on. We also have an online academy that doesn't sound like a marketing initiative, but it was, to help adopt from our older platforms to our newer ones. We realized that if you tell somebody they can't use this anymore, they might use your newer one, but they might use someone else's newer one. So there's a risk there in crossing that chasm. So we did start an online academy. It's 100% free. It's not just random videos. It's ordered, structured. There's measurable ways to certify your progress. And that way we're helping people get jobs, and we're showing the industry that if they adopt our latest and greatest, it will be easy for them to find operators, whether they're looking for permanent staff or, as they often are, for freelancers based on a certain game or a certain event.
I repeat, does not sound like Chyron has rested on its laurels for 5 seconds in the last 60 years.
Thank you. Thank you. No, there's no rest for the weary, is there?
No, there isn't. And you just filled in a little gap. I thought I understood the technology. In this house, we tend to watch English and other European soccer leagues, and I've seen American products and services sold to me on what appeared to be the screens on the side of the field. And I was trying to understand how it was in a Bundesliga game or La Liga or English Premier League, how they were selling things in the United States, but you have just filled that in. So that's not what they're seeing in the stadium. That's just what I'm seeing on our broadcast. Not
what the people who are tuning in Paris or Munich are seeing. They're seeing their own regionalized content.
Well,
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, and then in terms of monetizing it for the producers and the broadcasters, that's multiple income streams on the same space. I mean, that's phenomenal way to capitalize on the space for them. Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, I assume you have some competition, even though you are the industry standard. What differentiates you other than your 60 years of experience and the fact that you are the Kleenex Band-Aid, insert household name brand recognition term that here, what differentiates you in the marketplace? We have a lot of very good competitors. It's a global industry, but a lot of us know each other. And I have some very good friends at some of our competitors, and I admire very much the leadership at some of our competitors and what they're doing, what they're about. So everyone in this industry has a lot to offer, I think. And I think we all make each other better. The competition makes us better. I think what distinguishes Chyron, if we go back to our roots of not just our roots being creating that technology that put those letters there. The key story there is that was an innovation in its time. And if we go back to our roots of innovating, that's what's driving us today, of being visionary, of doing things in a different way. Like any software that you might know and love, there's always the next dot release that has the next button or something different about it. And we all do that. We're always trying to improve and take that customer feedback. Every company in the industry has multiple releases of a product, and they're each incrementally improved upon their predecessors. But we're not only just doing that, we're also looking to future. We are, I believe, a leader in cloud technology. That's not where the big money is now. The big money is still in the traditional, can you send us $250,000 and we'll send you 3 server grade graphics devices and something to drive your newsroom graphics with, and we'll send you a trainer. That's where the money is right now. But where the future is and what we have to be prepared for and what we have to help our customers be prepared for is what's going to happen in the cloud. So I would say that's where we're leading, and that's where we're leaning on our legacy. Our tagline, we did a rebrand in 2020,
And the new tagline that we came up with after a lot of talking around people who had been with the company for a long time, the tagline is since day one. And that refers to since day one, we've been integrating, innovating, and we still are.
Well, hey, as the infrastructure for bandwidth increases and improves, one would think those latency issues will be handled by the network itself, by its ability to have fiber almost everywhere, and for the speeds in both directions to be so strong that you can run your sort of system. So being future-proof is an interesting goal, but the yardstick just keeps moving further and further away. So again, I applaud the foresight of a company that's been around for that long, but is always moving ahead.
Thank
All
you.
right. As vice president of marketing, you have to tell Chyron's story across channels. What role has content played in the growth of Chyron?
I think it's played a huge role, and I think it plays a huge role in any company that is growing. I think people don't just buy stuff. They have a relationship with the company. They have, if it's Apple, they like how cool it looks. They like how they use it. They like the fact that they have interconnected devices. It's the entire story that makes you buy that one telephone. Is telephone even a word anymore? Do we say cell phone now?
I don't want to date myself by answering that question, but I grew up an hour north of New York City, and in the 70s, we dialed 4-digit phone numbers locally.
I remember when I don't remember how many digits it was, but I remember my mom saying her phone number was Cedar something, using that instead of a numeric prefix. But yeah, so good stuff. Now I just push somebody's name and I don't even know what the phone number is. So yeah.
Nobody knows phone numbers anymore.
No. So how do we tell the Chyron story? It is very important. One thing that I think is relatable to customers and potential customers is what are people just like them doing with our stuff. So I'm always trying to seek out case studies and get at what really made that person. What problem were they trying to solve when they chose our stuff? What are they doing with it now? What do they hope to do with it? And that all goes in the case study. And then after we wrap up the case study, what would they like to see in the next release? And then I'll pass that back to the product. So that's part of the story. Another part of the story is really encouraging my team not to be feature-centric, product-centric, and Chyron-centric. That's not what it's about. I don't wake up in the morning and go, gee, I think I need auto follow on my on-air graphics today. I wake up in the morning going, oh gosh, I've got so much to do, and how I'm going to make, I have to keyframe all of this in and make all of this happen. So how can I alleviate that problem? So we really focus on what it does for the user, what pain points it alleviates. We tend to, we do have to speak about specific products, but we tend to focus on how they're used within an entire workflow. Let's see, what else can I say about that? But that's probably enough for now.
You're describing a corporate symbiosis that I wish were a little broader across the universe. Marketing has to be aware of what sales needs, what the end user needs, and what the developer needs to be thinking about moving forward. And you're describing a cycle that I don't think exists in that linear a path at every company, but it's been working for quite some time at Chyron.
It has, and thank you for saying that. And I'm actually surprised that it doesn't exist. To me, it's common sense. What if I walk in a room and I want to become friends with the people in that room? I want them to like me. Do I go in and say, hey, look how great I am. I got my hair cut today and look at this dress I have on? No, absolutely not. I listen, that's ridiculous. I go in and I listen to them and we exchange stories. That's how we become friends.
Well, but you say that in a day and age where there's a generation of people whose phones are always pointed at themselves and they're sharing what they're doing and their successes and their perception. This is what I just ate. this is what I just bought, right? So it's a little less of the, you know, the macrobiotic and holistic approach that you're talking about. So again, it's working, and I hope people are paying attention. How's that?
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Look into your crystal ball. A year from now, what are some things you'd like to be celebrating personally and professionally?
I would like to be celebrating a major growth at Chyron. I think, going back to what you were asking me early in this conversation, you were asking me about our key verticals. And as we've grown in some, we've not really pursued some of the others. It is true that news and sports broadcasts are our bread and butter, but we're working hard in some of those other verticals. And I now have a much more robust marketing team than I had a year ago or 2 years ago. We build it from the ground up, and we have 100% retention, and I'm very proud of that fact. But I would like to see us create more vertical specific collateral. The sizzle reel that speaks to someone in a news environment isn't going to speak to someone running an esports tournament. So we have to look at the content that we're creating, even if the message is essentially the same, the verbiage will be a little different, and the examples of what we can make will be a lot different. So I would like to be celebrating some growth in a couple, at least 2 or 3 of our key verticals. I would like to be further along than I am now in planning the company's 60th anniversary. What does that mean? What does it mean to the company? What does that mean to professional journalism, to communications in general? And they say things come in 3, so I'm trying to think of a third thing. You know what I'd really like to be celebrating a year from now is a little time off. We've been pushing pretty hard here. So
the all elusive work-life balance. Yeah, if you
there is
have an
that.
answer to that equation,
I'll buy it.
yeah, you could own the universe. If you have the solution to the work-life balance, you let me know how that works out for you.
You bet.
Carol Bettencourt, please tell us, what is Chyron's URL? Where can everybody find them? And what social media outlets are you using these days as well?
It is chyron.com, chyron.com. And we are on LinkedIn, pretty easy to find. We are on X. We are on Facebook. There are a couple of so-called Chyron channels on Facebook. There is a Chyron official, however. And we have a brand new channel on Instagram as well.
Excellent. Well, you're the first person to refer to it as X. Almost everyone, hey, no one uses the term meta, right? So anyway.
Well, there's that.
Talk about brand recognition. Carol Bettencourt of Chyron, thank you. Thank you for spending some time with us on Business Ninjas today. I wish you and yours all the best in the future, and congratulations to Chyron as they're poised to hit the 60-year mark. That's amazing.
It's been a pleasure speaking with you today, Andrew. Thank you.
Oh, be well.
You too. Bye now.